Welcome to this presentation on Yohimbine supplement labels, dose variability, and contamination risk. Today we are not just asking whether Yohimbine works for fat loss, we are asking a more practical and arguably more important question. Can you even trust what the label says you are taking? Yohimbine already has a narrow risk to reward profile because it can stimulate the nervous system, raise heart rate, increase blood pressure, and trigger anxiety in sensitive users. When the label is incomplete, vague, or inaccurate, that risk becomes much harder to manage. Throughout this video, we will look at why Yohimbine bark extract is different from purified Yohimbine, why proprietary blends are a red flag, how widely actual Yohimbine content can vary between products, and how to audit a label before putting any stimulant into your body. The goal is simple: serious lifters should not gamble with unknown stimulant exposure. This slide sets up the main problem. Fat loss hype is one issue, but unpredictable stimulant exposure is an even bigger one. A lot of people focus on whether Yohimbine can help target stubborn fat, but they overlook the basic question of whether the product tells you what dose you are actually taking. With Yohimbine, the label may not fully reveal the amount of active Yohimbine, the broader alkaloid profile, or the total stimulant load if the product is stacked with caffeine, synephrine, Rauwolscine, or other stimulants. That means the risk can be hidden before the workout even begins. You might think you are taking a moderate fat burner, but the real formula could be underdosed, overdosed, or mixed with additional active compounds. The key message is that a supplement label is not automatically a safety guarantee. With Yohimbine products, the details matter. The problem with Yohimbine supplements is a combination of aggressive marketing and uncertain dosing. Even a small label error can meaningfully change the user's exposure because Yohimbine is not a mild ingredient. The difference between a low dose and a high dose can be the difference between a noticeable stimulant effect and anxiety, palpitations, or a blood pressure spike. Lab testing has shown that the real content of products can differ dramatically from what consumers assume based on the label. Some products may contain no detectable Yohimbine, while others may contain unexpectedly high amounts. Bark extracts can also contain other alkaloids that may contribute to stimulation or side effects. The phrase natural extracts sounds reassuring, but it does not mean predictable. If the label uses broad language like fat-burning matrix or thermogenic blend, it may be hiding the information you need most, the actual stimulant dose. Yohimbine is an alkaloid associated with the bark of the yohimbe tree. Yohimbe bark is not a single compound. It contains many chemical substances, and yohimbine is only one of numerous alkaloids present in the bark. This matters because a label that says yohimbe extract does not necessarily tell you the amount of active yohimbine in the product. It also does not reveal what other alkaloids are present alongside it. Yohimbine hydrochloride, often written as Yohimbine HCl, is different because it refers to a purified compound form. A purified compound is easier to dose and identify, but it is still pharmacologically active and not risk-free. The main point for the viewer is that ingredient naming matters. Yohimbe bark extract and Yohimbine HCl are not interchangeable, and consumers should not treat them as if they carry the same level of dose clarity. This slide compares two categories that often get blurred together on supplement labels. Yohimbine HCl is a purified compound. If a product lists the exact amount of Yohimbine HCl, the dose is at least easier to state and evaluate. That does not make it automatically safe, but it gives the consumer more information. Yohimbe bark extract is different. It is a botanical extract that may contain multiple alkaloids, not just yohimbine. The amount of yohimbine in the extract can vary, and other active compounds may be present. Two products can both say yohimbine and still have completely different chemistry. One might provide very little active yohimbine, while another might deliver a meaningful stimulant load. The takeaway is that the same label term can hide very different risk profiles. If you cannot identify the form and dose, you cannot accurately judge the risk. This slide gives viewers a practical list of label terms that should trigger a closer audit. If you see yohimbe bark extract, yohimbe extract, or Yohimbine HCl, you should pause and investigate what form is being used and whether the dose is clearly disclosed. Terms like fat-burning matrix, thermogenic blend, or proprietary stimulant blend are even more concerning because they often hide individual ingredient amounts behind a total blend weight. Vague language makes it harder to evaluate stimulant exposure. A product might look impressive because it uses scientific-sounding words, but those words may actually reduce transparency. The anti-hype rule here is simple. If the label does not clearly state the active stimulant dose, it does not give you enough information to manage risk. A serious supplement formula should be clear, not mysterious. A key reason for concern is that researchers have tested real-world products and found major variability. In one analysis, 49 supplement brands sold by major retailers were tested because they were labeled as containing yohimbe or yohimbine. Researchers measured multiple alkaloids, including yohimbine, Rauwolscine, and Corynanthine. The findings were not minor. Actual yohimbine content per recommended serving ranged from none detected to 12.1 milligrams. That means products that appear to belong in the same category can deliver completely different stimulant exposures. For consumers, this creates a major safety problem. If a product contains no yohimbine, it may underdeliver. If it contains a high amount, it may increase side effect risk. The consumer cannot reliably infer the real dose from the product name or general category. This slide makes the variability easy to understand. Products in the same category were found to range from no detectable yohimbine to 12.1 milligrams per serving. That is a massive difference in exposure. A person buying one yohimbe labeled supplement could get essentially none of the active compound, while another person buying a similar looking product could get a significant stimulant dose. This is not a small technical detail. Yohimbine can have noticeable effects on anxiety, heart rate, blood pressure, and sleep, so dose variability is directly tied to safety. The broader point is that labels can look similar while products behave very differently in the body. A consumer should not assume that because two bottles use the same ingredient name, they contain the same amount or carry the same risk. This slide illustrates the core label risk problem with a simple comparison. Product A might say yohimbine extract and contain no detectable yohimbine. Product B might also say yohimbine extract but contain 12.1 milligrams per serving. To consumers scanning a shelf or online listing, the labels may look nearly identical. In reality, the physiological effects could be completely different. One product may underdeliver on its promise, while the other may overdeliver in a way that increases side effect risk. This is especially concerning because many consumers combine fat burners with coffee or pre-workout supplements, increasing the total stimulant burden. The message is that ingredient names alone do not reveal exposure. Without clear dosing and third-party testing, you cannot know whether a product is weak, strong, or unpredictable. Here we break down common label claims and what they might actually mean. A claim like yohimbine bark may indicate a botanical extract with variable yohimbine content. A phrase like thermogenic matrix may hide other stimulants. A term like fat burner blend may fail to disclose the exact dose of any key ingredient. This is why supplement label literacy matters. A polished label can create the illusion of precision while giving the consumer very little useful safety information. The rule is straightforward. If the stimulant dose is hidden, the risk is hidden. Serious lifters should avoid products that force them to guess. If a company wants you to ingest a stimulant, it should be willing to disclose exactly how much is present. This slide highlights how poor transparency can be in yohimbine supplements. In the product analysis, only a minority of products listed a specific yohimbine amount. Even when labels did list an amount, the actual lab-measured content often differed from the stated value. Some products contained much less than advertised, while others contained far more. Very few products provided both an accurate dose and clear adverse effect information. That is a serious problem for an ingredient with stimulant-like effects. Consumers need to know not only whether an ingredient is present, but also how much is present and what warnings apply. Transparency should be the minimum standard, yet in this category it appears to be the exception. The takeaway is that yohimbine labeling often fails at the exact point where accuracy matters most: dose and risk disclosure. Botanical extracts are complicated because they are mixtures, not single ingredients. Yohimbe bark can include numerous alkaloids besides yohimbine, and the exact profile may vary based on plant source, extraction method, and manufacturing practices. A label can say standardized, but that word only matters if the company provides evidence that the final product was actually tested. Natural does not mean predictable. A natural extract can be weak, strong, contaminated, or inconsistent from batch to batch. This is why bark extract is harder to trust than a purified compound with a clearly stated dose. Even then, purified yohimbine is still not risk-free. The main point is that consumers need documentation, not just branding. If a product does not prove what is in it, the user is left guessing about the dose and the safety profile. This slide reinforces that yohimbine is not the entire story. Yohimbine bark contains many alkaloids, and yohimbine is just one of them. If the ingredient panel says yohimbine bark extract, it may not reveal the full biological picture. Other compounds can travel along with yohimbine and may influence stimulation, blood pressure, anxiety, or other effects. This complicates safety because the user may think they are evaluating a single active compound when they are actually ingesting a mixture. The 1 out of 55 framing is powerful because it shows why simple labels can be misleading. A bark extract can contain a broad chemical profile, and without testing, the consumer cannot know what else is present or whether the product has a consistent composition from batch to batch. The product analysis did not only measure yohimbine, researchers also tested for other alkaloids, including Rauwolscine and Corynanthine. This matters because Rauwolscine is another stimulant-like compound, sometimes associated with yohimbe bark extract supplements. Co-alkaloids complicate safety because the effects of a product are not determined solely by how much yohimbine it contains. The combination of multiple alkaloids may change how the product feels and how risky it is. This is especially concerning for people who are sensitive to anxiety, blood pressure changes, or heart palpitations. A consumer may believe they are taking a simple yohimbine product when in reality they may be consuming a broader alkaloid mixture. The more active compounds present, the harder it becomes to predict individual response. A label can claim that an extract is standardized, but standardization is only useful if it is verified. The consumer should look for an exact due patient amount, a lot-specific test result, and a formula that does not hide stimulants inside a proprietary blend. Claims like standardized extract or premium bark extract are not enough on their own. You want proof that the actual batch contains the stated amount of active compounds. Products that only list total blend weight or use broad extract language without a dose should raise concern. The same is true for products with no warnings or no evidence of testing. A serious label should answer the questions a safety-conscious user would ask. What form is it? How much is present? What else is in the formula? And has the specific product been tested? This slide separates 3 related but different concerns. Natural co-alkaloids are compounds that occur alongside yohimbine and bark extracts. Undeclared active compounds are bioactive ingredients that are not clearly disclosed on the label. Adulteration or contamination refers to added or unintended actives that change the risk profile. All 3 can matter for safety. A product can be risky because the natural extract is variable, because the company hides ingredients behind a proprietary blend, or because it contains contaminants or adulterants. The body does not care whether the stimulant came from the plant, the formula, or contamination. It responds to the total biological exposure. That is why label clarity and testing are so important. Without them, the user cannot confidently assess what they are taking. Yohimbine is not the only concern in stimulant formulas. Products may include caffeine, synephrine, Rauwolscine, or other stimulant-like compounds. Sometimes these ingredients are listed openly, and sometimes they are buried in blends or small text. The nervous system responds to total exposure, not to how the label organizes ingredients. A formula might split stimulants across a thermogenic blend, energy matrix, and focus complex, but your heart, blood pressure, and anxiety response fill the combined load. This means a product that appears moderate on the surface may still be aggressive when all stimulant sources are considered together. The takeaway is that a clean-looking label does not automatically mean low risk. You need to evaluate the entire formula, not just whether yohimbine appears in one section. The only way to verify the actual ingredients and amounts is laboratory testing. Research studies use methods such as advanced liquid chromatography, ultraviolet detection, mass spectrometry, reference standards, and alkaloid quantification. Consumers do not need to know every technical detail, but they should understand the principle. Testing reduces uncertainty. When evaluating a product, look for third-party certification, a lot-specific certificate of analysis, and exact yohimbine disclosure. These features do not make yohimbine risk-free, but they do reduce the chance that the label is wildly inaccurate. Without testing, you are trusting a manufacturer's marketing claims, and history suggests that trust is not always warranted in this category. If the company cannot provide basic verification for a stimulant ingredient, that is a major reason to skip the product. Proprietary blends are especially problematic for stimulant ingredients. A total blend weight does not tell you how much yohimbine, caffeine, synephrine, or Rauwolscine is present. Terms like thermogenic matrix, energy blend, and fat-burning complex may sound sophisticated, but they often hide the exact ingredients that matter most for safety. With yohimbine, a few milligrams can meaningfully change the risk profile, so hiding the dose is unacceptable from a consumer safety standpoint. The rule is simple: if the dose is hidden, the risk is hidden. A serious product should not ask consumers to trust a mystery blend. If a label does not disclose stimulant amounts, it does not give you the information needed to use the product responsibly. This slide shows why stimulant stacking is a major concern. A formula might combine yohimbine with caffeine, synephrine, Rauwolscine, and other stimulants. Each of these compounds can increase arousal, anxiety, heart rate, blood pressure, and sleep disruption. When multiple stimulants are combined, the effects can add up quickly. This is especially concerning for users who also drink coffee, energy drinks, or take a separate pre-workout. They may not realize how much total stimulation they are getting. Stacking can turn a product from uncomfortable to risky, particularly for people with anxiety, high blood pressure, or cardiovascular concerns. The message is not that every stimulant is inherently dangerous. The message is that combining several stimulants, especially without clear dosing, creates an avoidable risk. The phrase thermogenic matrix can sound scientific, but it is not a safety guarantee. It may simply mean the product contains ingredients that create a heated, stimulated feeling. That feeling does not prove meaningful fat loss. It can also mean the formula is hiding individual stimulant doses behind a total blend weight. The user may feel intense stimulation and assume that intensity equals effectiveness, but that is a mistake. Serious lifters should value transparency and clinical relevance, not stimulant theatrics. A product that makes you sweat, shake, or feel wired is not necessarily helping you lose fat in a meaningful way. It may simply be stressing your nervous system. The smarter approach is to choose products that disclose doses, avoid unnecessary stimulant stacking, and support fundamentals like diet and training. Yohimbine and yohimbe products can produce stimulant-like side effects. Common effects include anxiety, restlessness, sweating, and insomnia. Physical effects can include elevated heart rate, hypertension, palpitations, nausea, and headaches. Some users may interpret these sensations as a sign that the product is working, but that is not necessarily true. A racing heart, anxiety, and poor sleep are not harmless thermogenic feelings for everyone. For people with underlying anxiety or cardiovascular sensitivity, these effects can be more serious. This is why dose accuracy and label transparency matter so much. If a product contains more yohimbine or additional stimulants than expected, side effect risk increases. The takeaway is that the sensation of stimulation should not be confused with safe or effective fat loss. This slide addresses the more serious safety concerns associated with yohimbine. Reports have linked yohimbine exposure with blood pressure problems, cardiac arrhythmias, heart attacks, and seizures. These are not minor discomforts. They are potentially severe outcomes, especially for people with cardiovascular disease, anxiety disorders, medication interactions, pregnancy, liver or kidney concerns, or heart rhythm issues. Label uncertainty worsens the risk calculation because you cannot confidently manage risk if you do not know the dose or alkaloid profile. Even a well-tested product cannot erase personal risk factors. Product quality is only one part of safety. Your health status, stimulant sensitivity, and total stimulant intake are equally important. For many people, the safest decision is to avoid yohimbine products entirely. Stacking yohimbine with stimulants such as caffeine, Rauwolscine, ephedrine, or synephrine can increase heart rate and cardiovascular risk. If the product also hides exact amounts, the user cannot evaluate total stimulant exposure. This is where label risk and stacking risk collide. A person might think they are taking a normal fat burner, but the product may contain multiple stimulants in unknown amounts. Then they add coffee, a pre-workout, or an energy drink, and the total load becomes unpredictable. This is especially concerning because many stimulant side effects are dose-dependent. Without full transparency, consumers cannot make informed decisions. The safest approach is to avoid multi-stimulant blends containing yohimbine, especially when exact doses are hidden. This slide gives viewers a practical starting framework for label auditing. First, identify whether the product contains Yohimbine HCl or yohimbe bark extract. Yohimbine HCl is a compound form, while bark extract may contain a broader alkaloid mixture. Second, check whether the exact yohimbine amount is disclosed. Avoid products that only list total matrix weight or hide the ingredient in a proprietary blend. Third, look for other stimulants. Caffeine, synephrine, Rauwolscine, ephedrine-like compounds, and high-stim blends all increase the risk profile. This framework helps turn vague label reading into a systematic safety check. If you cannot answer these three questions clearly, you do not have enough information to use the product responsibly. The second part of the label audit focuses on safety transparency. Fourth, check whether the product is third-party tested. Certification and lot-specific testing help reduce uncertainty, although they do not remove all risk. Fifth, look for warnings about anxiety, blood pressure, heart issues, medication use, pregnancy, and stimulant sensitivity. A product containing yohimbine without meaningful warnings should raise a major red flag. Sixth, confirm that yohimbine is not hidden inside a proprietary blend. If the dose is hidden, your risk estimate is weak by default. A quality supplement label should help consumers make safer decisions, not obscure critical information. If a company is unwilling to disclose basic dose and safety information for a potent stimulant, it is not a product worth trusting. This slide lists groups that should avoid yohimbine products. People with anxiety or panic disorders are at risk because yohimbine can intensify sympathetic nervous system activity. People with post-traumatic stress or high stress sensitivity may also react poorly. Anyone with hypertension, heart rhythm issues, cardiovascular disease, or heart concerns should avoid it due to potential effects on heart rate and blood pressure. Pregnancy and breastfeeding are also contraindications because safety is not established. People taking antidepressants, stimulants, blood pressure medications, or interacting drugs should not use yohimbine without medical clearance. Kidney and liver concerns also matter because these organs help process and eliminate compounds. The message is simple: if you have any relevant health condition or medication exposure, yohimbine is not worth the gamble. This slide reinforces that the presentation is educational and not medical advice. Yohimbine is not appropriate for everyone, and it should not be casually combined with high-stimulant pre-workouts. Products that hide yohimbine inside proprietary blends should be avoided because the user cannot evaluate dose or risk. Anyone with cardiovascular, blood pressure, anxiety, panic, post-traumatic stress, pregnancy, medication, kidney, liver, or heart concerns should avoid yohimbine unless cleared by a healthcare professional. This is especially important because the side effects can be serious, and because product labels are often incomplete. The safest approach is to treat yohimbine as a high-caution ingredient, not as a standard fat loss add-on. The final verdict is that yohimbine products vary too widely for consumers to assume labels tell the full story. Actual content can range from none detected to high milligram amounts per serving. Bark extracts may contain other active alkaloids such as Rauwolscine and Corynanthine, which can complicate effects and side effects. Third-party testing matters because it reduces uncertainty, but even testing does not erase yohimbine's inherent risk profile. A verified dose is safer than a mystery dose, but it is still a stimulant with potential cardiovascular and anxiety-related effects. For most lifters, the most practical conclusion is to avoid vague yohimbine products, skip proprietary stimulant blends, and prioritize transparent, well-tested supplements with a stronger risk-to-reward profile. The clear takeaway is that with yohimbine, dose uncertainty becomes risk uncertainty. Serious lifters should not ignore that. A product that hides the dose, uses vague extract language, or stacks multiple stimulants without transparency is asking the consumer to take on unnecessary risk. Fat loss should be built on proven basics: calorie control, protein intake, resistance training, sleep, and consistency. Supplements should support that foundation, not introduce unpredictable stimulant exposure. If a label does not clearly disclose the form, dose, co-stimulants, warnings, and testing status, the safest decision is to walk away. With yohimbine, what you do not know can matter just as much as what the label claims.